Welcome back, team. Tonight we're going to go through and show you how we can solve our Lotto problem that I mentioned at the end of our last video, whereby we make a program that is going to generate and store 6 random numbers between 1 and 40 in the likes of a list, making sure that each item that is stored in the list is ranked and is not a duplicate of a previously drawn number. Okay, so to start off with, we're going to look at using the random class, and in here I'm going to call it rand, and I'm going to make another variable here called Lotto rand, which is going to be used in conjunction with the random class to remember the random that gets created with the random class. The next thing that we're wanting to go through and do is create a list which is going to remember all of our items here. And similar to our last lesson, we are going to be wanting to look at storing a list of integers, bearing in mind that we can store a list of just about all the different data types that we've covered so far. So if we wanted to store a list of decimals, we simply change the data type here. If we wanted to store a list of booleans, so could be the use of, computer wins or user wins. Maybe if a computer wins, it's called false. If a user wins, it's called true. So it could be a list of booleans that's remembered. It could be a list of decimals or singles or some other types of floats if you're wanting. But in this situation, our Lotto balls are going to be generated and will simply be stored as integers in our list. Okay, so first off, we need to go through and generate the likes of 6 random numbers, and so we'll go through here and start this off, and we'll call this for counter 1 to 6, and in here we will now generate the random number. It's important that we generate the random number inside of our counted loop, just so that the new random is actually made here, otherwise it will just keep adding the same random number each time to our list. Okay, so let's go through now and assign this. And remembering the concept of the use of random numbers, is that we're going to place the lowest random that we'd like to generate all the way up to our highest number that we'd like to generate plus 1. So because I know that 40 is the highest number that I'd like to generate, I'm going to go up to 41, and that's because if it makes the likes of 40.9999, it'll never get as high as 41. It'll always just truncate that down to 40. So this is going to make our number between 1 and 40 be generated. And the next thing that I'm going to try and do here is simply add it to the list. Now, if I was to go through here and try and output my results now after trying to sort it, I have to remember what we've called it, and we'll sort our list, and then using that concept from last time, I'm going to iterate through and I'm going to iterate through my list here by outputting each of these items. Okay, so if we go through and output and run this program now after fixing up that little error, here it is. Here's my random numbers. Look, it starts at 1, goes all the way through to 40, so it's actually done it perfectly in terms of its sorting and the fact that I can see that the lowest number is generated as well as the highest number. If I was to try and rerun this, we'll see if we can generate the problem that we might going to see. And here's the problem that we want to try and avoid. We've actually got 2 randoms being generated, and in this situation they're both being added to our list. So we need to have unique numbers being added here. So this is where we're going to use that concept from last lesson, whereby if it is already in the list, we'd like to run the root loop again. Now, where we'd like to do that is before this add statement. So we're going to go through and do our if statement, and we'd like to work out whether our Lotto list contains the Lotto ran from previous line. Okay, and if it does, what should we do? Well, a couple of different ways around this. If the list already contains the Lotto random, what I'm going to do is I'm going to make the counter here get one smaller. Okay, so whatever counter is, I'm going to make it get smaller by 1. So that line of code is the same thing as this line of code, where we can take off 1 from our counter. So for instance, if it started at 0 to begin with, it will go through and make this random number. It'll realize it's already in the list. It will make it now then go down to negative 1, and then it will hit the bottom of my next loop, go back up towards the top there, and then make it back to 0 once more. So therefore it'll go through and not add this item. So I'm going to have to just change this around a little bit to make what I've just said make sense. Okay, so because I only need one of these, I'll simply comment that out, and now my program is going to be able to handle getting 6 unique numbers. So just to recap, if it goes through and the number is already in the list, it will hit this line of code or this block of code. It will decrease my counter variable by 1, therefore allowing it to make another random to check to see whether it's already in the list again. So if we go through and try and run this as a program, if we're lucky enough, we may actually see our list contain this item already pop up. You might need to run this a couple of times through in order for us to see this. Okay, so the first element being stored there is 36, and it's being plugged into index 0. Okay, so the random now is going to be 20 popping up. And what we're wanting to see is we're wanting to see whether it pops up as being yellow in here, because if that's the case, it means that the number has already come into our list. Oh, here it is. So the Lotto ran that's getting made here is 36. And you'll notice that in index 0 it's already containing this number 36. So at the moment my counter variables is at 4, but when it hits this line of code here, it's going to decrease this back down, and now counter is set down to 3. So therefore, when we run through this code once more, we're now at counter 5, counter 6, it's passing through. Last time, pops to the bottom, we'll sort our list, and it will go and output each of those items within this list. Okay, and then when you go through and see it in ranked order, we're going to be ending up with unique numbers between 1 and 40. Okay, so that's a simple way in which we could solve the Lotto problem. If we wanted to do it for some other kind of randoms, we could go through and simply change this. And a lot of the programs that we've solved to this point already, we could have actually gone through and solved them with the likes of lists. It would actually make things much more efficient, and that's one of the things that I would recommend that you do with your code, so you can actually improve upon these skills that we're covering through the likes of our lessons and also these tutorials. Okay, so that's the end of the use of lists, how we can add items into it. Just remembering on from last time, if we're wanting to go through and do something such as the likes of outputting the average of all of these items, we could go through and use some of those built-in functions in here. Going to work out the average items of this. We could work out the highest, the lowest by changing it from .average to max, min, sum, etc. So those are going to be some useful elements or items for us to use further down the track if we wanted to do some kind of manipulation with things. Okay, so that'll be the end of our use of lists for the evening. The next tutorial that I'll make will be surrounding the use of functions and subroutines.